Hello, hello, most beautiful stars. Hello, hello. Happy Wednesday. How are you all doing? Oh my goodness. Yes, I'm fixing my lighting. I'm always fixing my lighting. So, good day, beloveds. Hello. It is late in the night for me. And this is not bedhead. This is pool head because I was working up a heat and we finally got the pool up and I said, why not take a dip? So I see that Lori's in the house. Good to see you, Miss Lori. I am live. I'm usually live for the Edgar Cayce Life Skills Studies. And tonight I'm going to try to do my best to say hello to people because we are a community here. And I see Chloe just got in. Good to see you, my dear. I started Edgar Cayce Life Skills Studies about a year ago or so. There are over 60 videos, and we are either in his biography, moving slowly by retelling his life, and it's lovely. It brings humanity back to this amazing sleeping prophet, and or we are in one of his source materials. Tonight, we are back in Edgar Cayce on Reincarnation. This is the 1969 copy of this. It is from 1969. It's got all the fading to prove it. After we are done with this, I'm giving everybody a heads up. We will be moving into, for his source materials, we'll be moving into Edgar Cayce on the earth changes, because isn't the earth changing? Here we like to discuss what's happening with the weather, not just because it's fun and we all get to you know, placate one another with how's your weather? How's your weather? It's not that. It's we are tracking what's going on at the pole shift. And we're all across the beautiful globe. In regards to what Edgar said about it, regards to what the Akashic says now, it's good to know. We are in the part 2 of the Salem witch trials within this source material, Edgar Cayce on reincarnation. I was not expecting this chapter, but yet I do understand why it's here. Not only were there a lot of readings that Edgar did that the souls he was reading for at the time, the 30s, the 40s, were reincarnated souls from that time period, but it very much is aligned with even what Edgar has gone through in life, what many of us here at Stars of Morning Light go through in life because of the amount of centuries of persecution in various ways. So when we're going through this, please know that a lot of this information, it might be just the Salem witch trials, but it could be persecution in whatever way, shape, and form in a past life. I remember um, talking to a beloved friend of mine once, a black man, and he was talking about, being afraid of the water. And I just turned to him and I said, "Sweetheart, you know why, right?" And he's like, "No, I have no idea why." I said, "Because it's ingrained now. It's ingrained into your soul, into your DNA to be afraid of water. Same as to be afraid of dogs, to be afraid of a lot of things. Whatever trauma big like that, that probably happened a few times over, right, is present, is present. The good and the bad and all the in between is present in the current life. And we're going to be covering a lot of that tonight. And we're going to be covering a lot of interesting stuff that pops up in this reading that I wasn't expecting, but man, yeah, here comes some education, folks. So come on in, beautiful stars. It's good to see you. I see that Earth Elements is here. Bless you, my dear. Yes, that is a lovely woman named Angie. She is a great, great lady. So I hope some of this can also explain some things. I want to I want to retell real quick what we covered already in chapter 12 on the Salem witch trials. There were different examples. One of them was a set of two guys that were there in Salem at that time. One guy who kind of was always a bad guy, he just kept going with the status quo of what his soul knows. I'm going to be a bad guy. I'm going to be a bad guy, right? We tend to, as Edgar would say, we're retracing our steps. And so if we're not retracing our steps with conscious awareness of I'm doing the same thing over and over and over again, we're not going to break it. We're not going to help it. We're not going to cure it. We're just going to do it over and over and over again. But the awesome thing about Edgar saying that it's not so much karma, we're just retracing our steps, is that if you want to start dancing, get your little happy feet going, go for it. You can do whatever you want. You don't have to do the same thing over and over again, but it does take having that pause within to become conscious of what we are doing first. So the two men, one just kept being bad all his lives, just being bad, just being bad. It can happen. The other fella, though, he kind of rode the fence during the Salem witch trials of like, well, that one's probably a witch, but she's not. I'm definitely going to say she's not. Well, that maybe that one, but I can save the life of a few of these. While he was kind of atoning in a way from previous lives where he treated women horribly, he decided to not just join the crowd and treat everyone. He became very selective. And so, even though it's not this big, grandiose atonement, grandiose change, even those small little steps, those small little things, those 4 or 5 women that he was firm in helping others believe, no, they're not witches. Even that makes the biggest difference your next time around. And beloveds, at some point tonight, I probably will be talking about that whole next time around thing again. Um, because it screws with people. It screws with people's minds. And so we're gonna work on it. We're just gonna keep chewing away at this concept of you're coming back. I say, well, you might as well enjoy what you're doing now then. But let's get into some of more of the stories that we're still in. Please go back and listen to the last episode, the first part of the Salem witch trials. There is an Edgar Cayce playlist with a ton of good information. So we are at a page break that says good friends. Yet good could come out of Salem, and never more surely than it did in the following relationship. It concerns a married woman and her brother-in-law, both by the name Adeline. So, I wanna be this reads a little tricky. What I wanna say before I even get into the reading. In Salem, there is a woman and her brother-in-law. That's during the Salem witch trials, okay? She her household, let's say. Her household was under suspicion, under talks and stares, words, whispers. She was not persecuted fully, but she was maybe on the list, her and her household. So, in that was Salem. In this current life, oh, and Alden, I'm sorry, the name Alden, which is interesting. They both had the name Alden because she was married to the man's brother. So sometimes in this, I believe they try to use just him and her to explain the man of now and the woman of now. Now, do know this reading took place somewhere in the 30s. 1930s. So Salem witch trials, 16, what have you, 1930s, Edgar's doing readings for people. So it starts with explaining not everything is lost when strong persecution happens or trauma like that happens. Good things can also come out of it. So, no, it was a woman and her entire household in this small little village where everybody's talking. Later, 1930s, this woman and this man come together again in a very interesting way. So, I will get to the reading. During one of the readings, Edgar wrote about her past life in Salem, as in, she suffered in the body for the persecutions brought to her household. So currently, she's suffering. And back then, she was suffering. Hardships came upon the entity, and she held grudges against those who had brought suffering to her loved ones. In the present, so 1930s, there has never been an innate awe of those who are teachers, ministers, or any who profess association with unseen sources. That is just a quote from that reading when the Akashic is talking about her. And so in Salem, she started to hold on to grudges. Her household was basically kind of under fire, right? A lot of talk through the town. She was suffering because of it. Then the reading would go on, and in part of it, it was talking about even if nothing really happened to her, just having that kind of association, that kind of words on your name, on your household, on you, your husband, your brother-in-law, your children, all of them. And then Kashik said again, it's a dread that they might come to harm for expressing their true opinions. Has she been accused of witchcraft by association? Question mark. The innocent invariably suffered twice as cruelly as the guilty in times of public persecution, and seldom, if ever, received readiness. Whatever the case, she was running a boarding house in Norfolk when she made welcome to Edgar Cayce because of in, an intense sincerity of her power of prayer. As a member of the ARE prayer group, she developed the rare ability to heal with her hands. So, in present time, running a boarding house in Norfolk, sometime late 20s, 30s, she's then a part of the ARE prayer group, which is beautiful. We love prayer groups, right? Manifestation groups, prayer groups. We love groups that help. And she developed a rare ability to heal with her hands. Okay. So back in Salem, words are being spoken. Present day, late 20s, she's a part of a prayer group. She can heal with her hands. In this life, her brother-in-law was born a German national, and as a teenager, he served in the infantry of World War One. During the final defeat of Germany, he was badly wounded and left to bleed to death on the deserted battlefield. So we're talking about World War One. Throughout the night, however, His wounds were stitched, and he was kept alive by a luminous, supernatural being. This he took to be his guardian angel. And then there's some parentheses here that says, and his is by no means a rare example of this type of phenomenon in the 1914 through 18 war, World War I. For he was one of the first of the wounded to be discovered by the stretcher bearers. Those were the guys coming to collect the dead on the battlefield in early dawn the following day. The writer here says, because all of this stuff has been lost throughout time. And in today's world, there's so much to research and look for. How are you going to pinpoint what to look for? This writer in 1969, not that far from when Edgar was alive, still a lot of knowledge is known. That phenomenon of a quote unquote guardian angel healing men on battlefields, commonplace. So now we have a woman who was once in Salem, talk around town, who knows, but she clearly probably had some kind of innate something going on, but she was not able to show it. What a dread that they might come to harm for expressing their true opinions. It's so sad that all these people, the teachers, the ministers, the professionals who might have associations with the unseen forces can't say anything about it. And now, the man who was her brother-in-law back in Salem is actually a German soldier in World War One, who apparently was healed by an angel. I'm going to keep reading. He immigrated to America, and fate took him square-footedly to the boarding house in Norfolk, where he was warmly welcomed by the sister-in-law of the old Salem days, now a widow of 58. Through her, he obtained a reading from Edgar Cayce and even studied at the ill-fated Atlantic University, which was organized in conjunction with the Edgar Cayce Hospital, and which likewise founded it fell in the crash of 29. We will get to that, folks, in his biography. There was a hospital, there was a university. It was not just the IRE. But then the crash of 29 happened. We're going to get there in his biography. Cayce was able to clarify that the young man's guardian angel was not an angel in the scriptural sense. I want to make that very clear. What the man thought that luminous being was, and that he called guardian angel, that was healing him, fixing him, taking care of him on the battlefield, keeping him alive. This luminous being was not a guardian angel, as in what we reference as angels, like Archangel Gabriel, Michael, Raphael, all of them. But one of the watchers, the helpers, both capitals, but one of the watchers, the helpers, who have made sufficient spiritual progress to be able to come to mortal aid while they themselves are in the next dimension awaiting rebirth. Did y'all hear that? I hope so, because I'm about to explain all that. I see that Seeker of Truth came in. Good to see you, my dear. Not a guardian angel. Not a guardian angel. And oh my goodness, I just said the word watchers. I just said the word helpers. That term has been misused in so many ways. And it's because just what the word watch means watching, witnessing, observing, watchers. That could be positive, negative, all in between, neutral, right? You're just watching. In this context, there are many luminous beings closely related to the angels. Sure. Luminous beings themselves of the divine light. Yes. Who, yeah, they walk amongst us now in human body form, in this form, right? These are these beautiful beings that went, whoa, look at what's happening on that earth of ours. Look at that lovely earth. Oh my goodness, we need to go help. And they have taken on forms, these earth suits, as we call them, meat suits, as we call them. They take on forms and they live out lives. When they are in a different plane of consciousness, dimension, living experience, waiting to be reborn, as Edgar said, reborn into a little baby here, they can participate in helping. And there are countless stories, definitely of them showing up on battlefields, definitely of them showing up saving people. It is not just angels. The watchers, the helpers, they are always here and they are always watching. Always. Always. They're always around. Either they are living right now, they could be having coffee with somebody right now, and that is exactly who that being is. Are they aware of it? Unfortunately, not fully. Not fully. That's the unfortunate part. Because of the density of 3D, they tend to forget that they are these luminous beings. But they're here, folks, and they're usually the ones that are doing the help. I'm going to read it again. Cayce was able to clarify that the young man's guardian angel was not an angel in the scriptural sense, but one of the watchers or helpers who have made sufficient spiritual progress to be able to come to mortal aid when they themselves are in the next dimension awaiting rebirth. This advanced soul had been able to repay in full the pity and kindness that sorry, Adeline had shown to the victims of persecution in Salem. This is as good an example of any by the law of grace in action, superseding all the lesser laws of karmic cause and effect. Law of grace overrides, deletes, stops the cause and effect of karma. That's it. The law of grace. Well, that sounds pretty easy now, don't it? Can you give yourself grace? Can you give others grace? And then based on that grace, can you just start stepping a bit differently? If karma is retracing your steps as Edgar would say it is, well, if we bring in the law of grace, forgiveness, compassion for self and others, well, then we can create a whole new cause. Whatever our cause was in the first place when we covered all of that in the secrets of the universe and how to use them. So you can get to the ideal that you originally came here to Earth with. Some call it purpose. Cayce would call it ideal. It's so wonderful. And we're going to go back to the concept of the watchers. Another positive note. So, to sum this up, when she was in Salem, it might have been her brother in law who started the rumors because clearly she probably had some kind of gift, but she wouldn't use it. Caused a lot of suffering within her household. Down the road, new life. She has a boarding house. She's a widow of 58 now. This young German man comes in. He's new to America. She brings him into her home. She gets him settled in. She gets him in touch with Edgar. She gets him help. She probably helps him get a job. All of that. She's caring for him. That is how we do this. We just do differently. We just choose differently. We choose the law of grace over any old grudge that we might have, any old pain or grudge that is attached to a past life. Because how's that serving you now? Some call it lessons. I call it not serving me a damn bit. I'm just saying. Another positive note is struck in the case of the woman who had escaped from Salem to Virginia as the witch Jane Dundee. And through harassment and rejection of one sort of another, followed her even there. She steadily continued to do what good she could until her death. Her reading informed her that she had been one of the sick children healed by Christ during his lifetime, and that the desire to heal had persisted throughout the balance of her lives, defining defying the hangman's noose in Salem and manifesting now in the power to heal with her hands. So Edgar does this other reading for someone who was in Salem, someone that was about to be persecuted. She flees because she can see the writing on the wall. She flees, but regardless, wherever she went to next and went to next, right? She still, from Salem to Virginia, she did not deny who she was. She did not deny who she was because long, long ago in other past lives, she was a child who was healed by the hands of Christ. So that conviction was imprinted into her soul, into her conscious awareness that this can be done. So, regardless of if she has to flee, regardless of who might say what, it is more important to heal others and yourself than it is to worry about what the town might say. That's beautiful. That is beautiful. And that desire to heal had persisted throughout the balance of her lives, defying the hangman's noose in Salem and manifesting now in the power to heal with her hands. So, whoever Edgar was doing the reading for in the now, so late 1920s, 30s, what have you, she too still had the power to heal with her hands. The overall impression given by the references to Salem in the readings is that the soul group which incarnated there had shared a cycle of reincarnation which included France, from the Crusades to the Revolution, and Palestine in the time of the Master, then Greece, prehistoric Egypt, and the cryptic and forbidding continent of Atlantis. Those souls who had responded instinctively to the preaching of Jesus tended to display strong spiritual fiber and courage during the Salem witch trials, where and when they could, they did their best to bring back sanity and tolerance. So, actually, I'm going to read this last little bit. Those who came to grief in Salem often had a record of intolerance, beginning in Atlantis, that led directly to their misfortunes in Salem. But it is cheering to observe how many profited by their mistakes and returned to the 12th century, or sorry, the 21st, 20th century, sorry, the 20th century, prepared not only to live and let live, but to make themselves useful to their fellow man. And then they start giving examples, but I want to talk about this for a moment. I really, really do. Um, People do not, in my humble opinion, I don't know if people, maybe you can answer that. Answer that in the comments below, please, because I don't know if people know that souls reincarnate in groups. Logic hopefully would explain this to you as in soul contracts, and they tend to reincarnate in the same locations, and it could be for a few generations because it's based on soul contracts. So a soul group could be in France during the Crusades, which I know I was, and maybe I'll go into it tonight because it's all related. Persecution, burned at the stake. It was not fun at all. France, yes, I was there. Soul groups, and so was my husband of today. Soul groups based on soul contracts. Rebirth together in same locations. And part of currently, I would say in the United States, the past few years during the pandemic, we have seen a whole lot of shifting, people relocating. That is actually based on past life stuff that needs to be addressed. Your soul, okay, right now, because of the time that we're living in, it's kind of this apex of stuff that your soul does still need to resolve is all kind of hitting. But also, your soul wants to identify you and itself as, let's say, a particular type of entity. It has, I don't know, a course that it kind of, the ideal that it wants to live out. Just 2 years ago, your soul made a contract to itself, a commitment to itself, to live the ideal that you originally came here with many, many, many lives ago, moons ago. That was part of this whole movement of people because land needs to be healed, people need to be healed, and soul contracts need to come back together for the next new coming, right? Of things to be. Souls group themselves, soul contracts. And I personally would love to do a case study on this to actually prove this for everyone, more so than what Edgar would have been able to do. In today's world, we can probably do it so much faster and easier. But the hardest part is getting the participants. That is the hardest part because I would need, I don't know, let's say a family of 4 or 3. If you're a family of 3, okay, awesome. Well, then I need all sorts of people that come off of you. Best friends, parents, siblings, all of them. I need at least 9 to 1 case. And then I would do readings for people solely based on I need to know if these people were together, when, and where. The whole 9 of you, the whole pack. When were you tied together energetically in these soul contracts? Was it in France? Was it in Spain? Was it in South America? Where were you tied together? Because we come here in groups and we come here already designing how we're going to come together. It's a beautiful thing. And it's for that spiritual progression. But a lot of people don't realize that. And a lot of people don't realize that they continuously reborn into many of the same locations because it's attached to family contracts, soul contracts that are in the same location for generation upon generation upon generation. It's only been in recent decades that people started moving around. And then it's so interesting to me that a pandemic hits and they all go back to where they came from, but they're not aware of it. I thought it was fascinating. So we're all together, and your group, and another group, and another group. We do this dance. It's lovely, and it's what is meant to be. So that's a little, I don't know if people knew that. I'd love for you to leave a comment below and let me know if you knew that. I really would. Um, and that's the difficult about me doing that case study because I would love to have at least 9 per case, and I would love to have at least 6 cases to write about it, to be able to, you know, put it out there to the world that this is how it works. I have not yet to find all that. It's not so easy. You might be interested, you might be willing, but that doesn't mean mom and dad and sister and brother and best friend, that doesn't mean they are. So even though there was some hardships in Salem, persecutions, the soul group did migrate there together, rebirth there together, were together, and oftentimes to retrace their steps, oftentimes to go through the same thing over and over again. But what is lovely is it continuously says when they have been around a master who did not give, when they've been around a master, because I also mentioned the master of Palestine, that's beautiful. When they've been around a master who, which is a much older master, by the way, when they talk about that, when they talk about being and seeing Jesus, and probably using their gifts as well, like they were the scene, right? We've covered the scene. We're going to keep covering the scene because they witnessed that you don't have to deny who you are. They held on to that through all sorts of stuff. That is beautiful. And they came together to so everybody could witness each other. Everybody could observe. And unfortunately, those who did suffer, those who did have grief, it's because they're retracing their steps and not changing their ways. One captures vivid flashes of Salem's effect on a particular soul by which haphazard reference as this. So now they're talking about this is going to be an Akashic reading for someone. They give a few different examples here. They kind of bounce around examples. The entity was then one Sally Dale, who lost her life through a cold caught caught by dipping. We talked about in the first episode of the Salem witch trials here. Dipping was when, they kept dunking you in the water. So this young girl, she didn't die from that, but she died from the cold that it brought on. Accounting to the present for her fear ever to allow herself to express fully that which she feels within when dealing with such subjects as witchcraft. So in her current life, once again, a reading around the spiritualist movement, turn of the century, spiritualist movement, this young girl still wouldn't talk about her feelings about witchcraft or spiritualism or any of the woo woo because she had died from that persecution. Another one, another. In the name of Marie Smith, heard and saw visions that were the imagings of the mind far from home. Oh, this refers to the tall tales of a West Indies woman, slave woman, who was there in Salem, who had heard in the groaning of the forest a sigh that the souls of people live on. Another. In the present, this may bring a curiosity, a wanting to know. Ah, the listening to snitches of conversation, not so nice. For often you will hear that which it left unheard would have made thee much happier. Whew, that is the Akashic saying. So there, that was the Akashic saying in the present. So back in Salem, Marie Smith saying she had visions. This refers to the tall tales of a West Indies slave woman. So I'm not sure if Marie Smith is the West Indies slave woman or if Marie Smith was hearing her from the woods about the souls of people still living on. But in the present, they were saying this in the present has sprung curiosity in the current entity, curiosity that's not doing her any good. Curiosity because she's probably one of those like, I heard this, I heard that, I heard this. And it sprung because she thought she heard something back then. Hmm. So the gossips in our life, those who are immensely driven by curiosity, that is a symptom from a past life. It could have been not just the Salem witch trials. It could have been you were a female who was told to sit in the corner and not, speak up. You could have been, I don't know, locked in your room for a long time as a child, as so many did back then. If you were not working on the farm or not working in the factory, you needed to be out of sight, out of mind, locked away. Curiosity, curiosity, curiosity. Well, the Akashic says here, a whole lot of things which you hear or don't hear should just be left alone. Hmm, hmm. Should just be left alone. Because maybe they're not for you. In the name uh Elsie Piper, being among those who let me read this real quick. Okay, so now here's another one. Elsie Piper, being among those who defended those who, as termed by him, were wolves in sheep's clothing, Thus the interest in the present in all things of that nature, witchcraft. And no wonder have there been the dreams and the visions. So Elsie Piper, who was defending and trying to say there's a wolf in sheep's clothing out here, well, she now too has the gifts. That's so interesting. The entity was one bill, and they keep jumping to case studies, and that's why it's kind of hard to do this, folks. I don't know if I want to keep doing this because it's like they'll do a paragraph, jump to another one, a paragraph without any full backstory. During the persecutions of those who had familiar spirits, or those who saw, heard, and understood much that is closed from the material minded man, the entity was considered too laden with those of the opposite sex as shared such experience and suffered both in body and mind. In the present, the memory of such experiences cause shudders in the region of the pineal and its center, as of shivers, quivers, or quakes, and sorrows enters the mental being. These, if applied in the service of the ideal, may become worthwhile. The entity persecuted those who had visions or dreams, or those who were considered to have familiar spirits. Yet, when those of his own household were counted among those who had seen visions and heard voices, the entity found confusion even in self. Hence, in the present, there may be seen the interest in things of the psychic, occult, or scientific nature. However, these but confuse. Beware of the mysteries that may not be practical in the material experience, but beware as much of those who would make their soul or psychic experiences so practical as to impede the spiritual development of the soul itself. So, beloveds, there's one more page break, but this is how this page break ends, and how it kind of began is where I want to hang out for a minute. So, we have an entity that back when he in Salem, like when he kind of was just confused all around. And then when his household came under persecution, he got even more confused. But he was confused because he also had latent gifts. He had some gifts. He didn't see anything really wrong with it. Now in present, he's actually very confused. And because even though he's interested in the spiritualism, the occult, the psychic, the this and that, right? He's still confused because it's muddled his pineal gland. It's muddled it. Let's look. And there's more to this. This is very big, especially the way it ends. His name is Bill. Let's go all the way back up. The entity was one Bill Edmundson, who made light of, yet experienced those close associations with earthbound spirits or entities who had not found the way, meaning disembodied beings. Yet the entity put some aside without analyzing or doing much about the same. The entity was then a storekeeper, closely associated with the some with some of the ministers and councilmen. So back in Salem, he could see disembodied beings. He could see earthbound spirits. He could see all sorts of little things, but he didn't pay it no never mind. He was a shopkeeper. He also knew a bunch of prominent men. Thus, we find that commercial interests, the ability to speak in public, and those things pertaining to the occult or psychic forces are a part of the present experience. So, in his today life, all of that's present as well. And all these things have their place. But the entity, Bill, must not become too rabid or censor without due consideration of others. For freedom of speech does not entitle any individual to speak ill of his neighbor. Rather, it gives one the privilege of being a constructive influence through one's speech, thought, and actions. And thus is freedom free indeed, as truth makes it so. During the persecutions of those who had familiar spirits and those who saw, heard, and understood much that is close from the material minded man, the entity, Bill, was considered too latent with those of the opposite sex or shared such experiences and suffered fair far fair both in body and mind. In the present, the memory of such experiences caused shudders in the region of the pineal and its sensor, as of shivers, quivers, or quakes, and sorrow enters the mental being. These, if applied in the service of an ideal, may become worthwhile. So, in Salem, he had gifts. He decided to ignore them. I understand why. He didn't pay him no never mind. So he could keep his reputation as a shopkeeper with the ladies, with the men, with everybody, with public speaking, with salesmanship, right? As we know, he was just keeping that going. In today's life, those skills are present. He's really good at it. Those skills are present. But because he denied the gifts before, whenever there's kind of a talk about it, or he might see something on the corner of his eye, what the hell is that? Or hear something or feel a touch of something that's not there, apparently, right? It sends quivers, shakes to his pineal gland. Hmm. The entity persecuted those who had visions or dreams, or those who were considered to have familiar spirits. Mm, just so he could sell some stuff, that material minded man. Yet when those of his own household were counted among those who had seen visions and heard voices, the entity found confusion even in self. Of, oh, shoot, that is what these people are being accused of? I can do that. Oh my goodness. I thought it was much more. I thought they were putting hexes on everybody. You mean just anybody that can just see a dead guy? Oh my God. Right? Hence, in the present, so 20s, 30s, Bill, hence in the present, there may be seen the interest in things of a psychic, occult, or scientific nature. Because he's trying to figure out the confusion, even though his pineal would shake. However, these but confuse. Hmm. Because of the denial before. They just got done saying those who had spent time with any master have much more courage and they stand strong and not wavering, not denying. Clearly, Bill, unfortunately, in that soul group, was one that they wished, spent more time witnessing the courage and the strength. This is the interesting part. Beware of the mysteries that may not be practical in the material experience. This is what I'm talking about, all those ones that are very fixated on figuring it all out and wanting to know everything, the curiosity. Beware of the mysteries that may not be practical in the material experience, but beware as much of those who would make their soul or psychic experiences so practical as to impede the spiritual development of the soul itself. Beware, 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 beware. I want to go back though. Beware. Actually, this has been on my mind quite a bit the past few days, so I guess that's why I'm really focused on it right now. Duh, 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 duh. This advanced soul, watcher, helper, this advanced soul had been able to repay in full the pity and kindness that Adeline had shown to the victims of persecution in Salem. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's go back up. Cayce was able to clarify that the young man's guardian angel was not an angel in the scriptural sense, but one of the watchers or helpers who have made sufficient spiritual progress to be able to come to mortal aid while they themselves are in the next dimension awaiting rebirth. Beware as much of those who would make their soul or psychic experiences so practical as to impede, to hinder. Impede means hinder, pause, hold back, impede the spiritual development of the soul itself. Hmm. The watchers, the helpers who have made sufficient spiritual progress. So even the watchers, even the helpers, those who are healers, those who are psychics, those who can, should focus on sufficient spiritual progress. Hmm. Instead of beware of the mysteries that may not be practical in the material experience. Why? Because if we focus so much on the psychic, so much on the occult, so much on the woo woo, so much on all the curious things out there, we are most likely impeding the spiritual development of our soul itself. If we actually focused more on the development of our soul, the progress of our soul, all that other stuff just falls into place. You don't have to search it. It's not a curiosity. It's just within and then you do. But the curiosity, the chase, It's impeding the spiritual development of the soul. It's fascinating. Who have made sufficient spiritual progress, the watchers and the helpers. Hmm. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that wild? That we can lose our own spiritual progress thinking that we are doing what we should by studying all this stuff and looking into all this stuff. And I feel that it's me. I feel that it's me when it's really just another distraction. Just another distraction from healing, from living life. And this has been on my mind a lot lately because I've been in many different talks and communications with a lot of different people. And I know 2025 has kind of beat up a lot of people the first 6 months. So, welcome into the second half of 2025. I think what happens though is so many people really start focusing on the grand amount of healing or focusing on, I need to study the occult. They focus on these things and they kind of lose the greatest thing about being here and the thing that helps us the most fun. It's really simple, folks. Have some fun. Have some fun. Now, is the woo woo stuff fun? Yes. But if it's to a degree of curiosity that you're avoiding other things, people, places, things, because you're afraid of some kind of, I don't know, thought the people, places, and things might have, or if you're so much in your curiosity, you're using that as a distraction for taking care of yourself, truly taking care of yourself, advanced spiritual progress, sufficient. We even talked about that in this material about how even the Christ consciousness, all it comes down to is a advanced, sufficient spiritual progress. So we lose ourselves in the toys and the trinkets. We lose ourselves in, I have to heal, my lessons, my lessons, my lessons, right? In this karmic idea of lessons. And so I bring it back to what I said at the beginning. Edgar Cayce has always said that our past lives mixed in with our present life is basically us just retracing our steps. We're just walking backwards. We're retracing our steps, maybe walking forward sometimes. We're retracing our steps. When I'm inviting you all to lay all of that down and put your dancing shoes on, have some fun, because I can guarantee this is the fun part. This is the fun part to all of this. All of it is fun. Those watchers, those helpers. So, beings, illuminating beings, luminous, crystalline, beautiful beings from their origin to now, developing the same sufficient spiritual progress as you all, right? Listen to this. But one of the watchers or helpers who have made sufficient spiritual progress, so masters and above, to be able to come to mortal aid while they themselves are in the next dimension awaiting rebirth. The watchers, the helpers, the crystalline beings, the masters, waiting rebirth. So, I also invite everyone to really think about that. because I nonstop hear people say, "Man, I hope I get this right. I hope I get it right this time so I don't have to come back. I hope I get this right." I gotta tell you, everybody, I don't know where your destination is because you're gonna come back. I don't know what destination you think you're gonna go to. Everybody talks about, I wanna go home. I'm not from here. No one's from here. No one is. This was created one day. We're all creation of somewhere. You're gonna come back. It was the choice you made, and it's the choice you would make again. You keep making that choice. You're gonna come back. There is no getting it right. You're not getting anything right. It is developing to a sufficient spiritual progress, advanced spiritual awareness. It is all that. So you're not getting anything right. There is no right or wrong. There are no rungs on the ladder. There is no heaven, there is no hell, there is no destination that you're thinking you're going to go to. Because I can guarantee you, when you leave, guess what you're going to do? Even if you're a celestial being of love and light, you're going to come back. You're just waiting to be reborn. You're going to come back. And the more that you can maybe accept that, it relieves you. I'm going to tell you, it relieves you of any of the pressure of having to get this place right. And then after you relieve all that pressure, go out and have some fun, start manifesting, start living life the way you want to live life, you know, forget about them. You can do whatever you want to do. We are so ingrained to take in and care about appearances and what other people think and what are we supposed to be doing, what is right, what is right. In so many regards, it is so insidious within us and ingrained that once we realize there is no judgment at the end of this, there is no judgment right now. I don't need to live with judgment. And you know what? I'm going to come back. I keep coming back. So apparently I'm probably going to come back. Logic will tell you that. Frees you. Frees you to actually start enjoying this place the way it's supposed to be enjoyed. And guess what happens when you start to enjoy? When you start to have fun and you really enjoy all those things that you're curious about, all those things of how do I manifest, all those things, how do I heal? How do I do this? How do I do that? They just start falling in place because you've let go of this grand idea of judgment and this, I better get it right. You start having fun, and all of a sudden you're manifesting. All of a sudden you're healing. All of a sudden you're helping others. The watchers, the helpers, the luminous beings, even they choose to come back. So, what makes you think you're not going to? It's to accept, and once you can accept, you can lay down the judgment of all things, or at least begin to, and have some fun. This place is awesome. This place is so awesome. And then you can receive, you can release and receive as much as you want. So it's good to, oh, Susie came in. Good to see you. Susie just said, I'm probably coming back. Yeah, beloveds, we all are. We all have an ideal. We all have an ideal. And I think that's the thing is when we can accept that it's like, "Oh, I'll come back." And then it can turn into this concept of, wow, and time, infinity just goes on and on and on. And I'm just going to keep coming back and keep coming back and keep coming back. Well, shit. I can do whatever I want. I can have so much fun. I mean, as long as we're not hurting ourselves and others, right? But I can express myself. I can do this, I can do that. I can all that learning that people want to do, all that things that they're curious about. If things are not done in joy, if things are not done with the release of have to, or the release of figuring it out, or a release of judgment of some way, because figuring out and have to and shoulds and all that jazz, all that, I need to learn karma, all of that is a form of judgment. All of that is in the 3D density consciousness and 5D density consciousness. All of that. Well, we're working for sufficient spiritual progress. 70 and above. 70 and above. When we can say, you know what? I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back. So what does it matter? Let's have some fun. What's the matter? Let's grow that soul. That soul that wants to help. That soul that wants to have fun. That soul that wants to enjoy this place. The soul does not want to keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. That is torturous. That soul really wants to have some joy. That soul really wants to have some joy, some peace, some love. It just takes putting on your dancing shoes while you're retracing all them steps, as Edgar would say. Just change up the way you're moving. Just change it up. Yes. Well, thanks everybody for coming. Lori just said girls want to have fun. That's right. Everybody should have fun. I hope this all makes sense, you guys. I mean, take that in. The watchers, the shiny ones, the watchers, the helpers. What some natives and other stories would say, the stars of the morning. That was another title for them. They too have at some point gone through exactly what we have gone through. They too have gone through it. And I have my phone here, and there's something I'm gonna pull up. I'm hoping I still have it here. So most of you probably remember. Do any of you remember the old show Quantum Leap? I'm wondering if people remember that. Oh, I'm such a Quantum Leap fan. Very much a Quantum Leap fan. With Scott Bakula. Oh, that was a little crush for little Courtney. I'm going to read this. This is the open monologue of Quantum Leap, the TV show from the late 80s, early 90s. This is, I think, by season 2 or 3. They had changed the open monologue a bit. And Quantum Leap, if you don't know, was this physicist was designing an experiment, ended up stepping into the experiment to try to get more funding, like let's accelerate it, let's get it faster. And he ended up jumping into time. He's now quantum leaping, jumping through different lives. And the premise of the show was he would jump into basically somebody's body, another meat suit. So the people at that time period would see him for that character, right? And he was essentially putting right what once went wrong, quote unquote, in very small, beautiful ways, not big, grandiose ways. And so for me, beautifuls, beloved stars, this right here, if you could sum up my definition of reincarnation, for me personally, being here with you right now, I have gone back in time to be with you. That is for me. That is how I view reincarnation. I'm not moving forward. I'm not really moving. It's more of a I've moved backward. So I'm going to read it. And this is the opening monologue of the TV show Quantum Leap. Love it. Whew. Let me know in the comments if you remember that show and if you enjoyed it. This is the opening monologue. Theorizing that one could time travel within his own lifetime. We could say timeline. Dr. Sam Beckett stepped into the quantum leap accelerator and vanished. He awoke to find himself trapped in the past, facing mirror images that were not of his own. Looking at himself in the mirror, and it was not of his own. Another suit. And driven by an unknown known force. Something within him, something keep moving him along in all these stories. And driven by an unknown force to change history for the better. His only guide on this journey was Al, an observer from his own time, who appears in the form of a hologram that only Sam can see and hear. Guides. Al. AI, some people might say. And so Dr. Beckett finds himself leaping from life to life, striving to put right what once went wrong, and hoping each time that his next leap would be the leap home. Now, when you watch the series by season 3, season 4, he's accepted. He has accepted that this outside force is having him leap from a different life to a different life to a different life. Every time he sees himself in the mirror, he does not look as himself. This outside force having him leap around, leap around, leap around. By, yes, the end of season 2, season 3, season 4, he has accepted because he has been helping so many people that now he's in love with the helping of the people. More so than, is my next leap going to be my leap home? And in every episode, he is concerned about what is happening with the people around him in that leap. And he's doing what he can. He has traveled back in time. For me, that is my definition for myself of reincarnation. Of reincarnation. That we, many of us listening, you beautiful stars of the morning, many of us actually have traveled back after we have sufficiently spiritually progressed. We have traveled back to make right what once went wrong. But we know it's not about us, our personal. We know it's not our personal right. We're here to help. So, good time. See, Susie said she loved Quantum Leap. It's a great time here. It's a great time. It's an absolutely wonderful experience to be here. So, I love you guys. I'll talk to you later. Have a great week. I will not be here Friday. Do know, beloveds, and especially if you are the patrons, I have decided I do not want to do an Akashic reading for June of 2025. I'd rather everybody just experience it. Very much so. Please take the leap, experience it. But for the patrons and those here, I will be doing some other lovely videos all about the next 6 months. So that will be coming in June, everybody. I'll talk to you guys later. Good night, stars.